Good day everyone, Mystic Otaku again. I'm back with the second chapter of Is It Wrong to Want to Stop the Dark Age? Which I can't stress enough is not my fanfiction. My fanfiction is still a work in progress for those who are still interested. Credit to the guild original author, and as I previously said, I'll leave a link in the description for you to check it out on your own time. Show support either way because this guy or gal poured their heart and soul into making this story. I'm not kidding either. Anyway, into Chapter 2, Fairy of Justice. Bell awoke from his dream in fright. He was sweating and panting as if he was trying to catch his breath. His hand touched his chest, and he could feel the scars Zald gave him. He had been so close to death because he assumed his family wouldn't try and kill him. He had his infinity off around them, and that was his mistake. Catching his breath, Bell looked out his window and saw the moonlight shining through. Judging by where the moon was located in the sky, it was around 3 a.m. He slept longer than he thought he would. He got out of his bed as he knew he wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. So he decided to wander around the manor to get a feel for his location. He wandered around the halls, which had a red carpet. He saw paintings and pictures of the Estrella Familia and Estrella herself. One photo caught his eye. He picked it up and saw Estrella carrying what he assumed to be a smaller Elise on her back. The smaller version of Elise looked absolutely delighted to be carried on her goddess back, while Estrella had a content smile on her face. The picture reminded Bell of a similar one Zeus had taken of him and Zald. Except instead of Zald's back, Bell was on his shoulders with his arms hoisted in the air. He subconsciously touched his scar again. "Bell, is that you?" Estrella called out. Bell set the picture down and turned to face her. "Yeah, what are you doing up so late? Shouldn't you be asleep?" Estrella walked closer to Bell, wearing a white nightgown. She wasn't Freya, so it wasn't see-through, but it didn't do a lot to hide her curves. "We gods and goddesses don't really need sleep. We just do it to pass the time. Why aren't you asleep? It is quite late." Bell looked away from her and back at the pictures. "I haven't done much sleeping as of late. Been having nightmares of that day every time I try." Estrella knew what he was referring to. So she took a spot next to Bell and looked at the pictures. She smiled as the memories came back to her. It was of a time before the Dark Age. "You know, you haven't really told me anything else about your life before coming here. Other than the incident, of course." Bell glanced at her. "Not much to say, really. I'm an orphan who was raised by extended family while mastering my cursed technique and abilities. Not much to really talk about." Estrella hummed in acknowledgement. "That's all, no interests or personal hobbies." "Well, I do like reading and working out." "So illiterate muscle head," Estrella teased. Bell slightly chuckled. "Yes, illiterate muscle head." A comfortable silence fell over the two as their eyes remained on the pictures. Estrella remembered the moments fondly, while Bell could feel the happiness emanating from each photo. A happiness taken away by his family. Estrella could sense the shifting in Bell's mood and went to put a hand on his shoulder. Only to not be able to touch him because of his infinity. Estrella let out a sigh as she took her hand away from his shoulder. "You know you can turn that off when you're around us, right? I'll pass. After what happened last time, I don't want to take any chances." Estrella didn't argue as he didn't have a bad reason for keeping it on. She just wished he didn't feel the need to constantly keep it on. "So, how was the feast?" Bell asked. Estrella smiled. "It was nice. A few of the girls asked where you were. What did you say?" "I told them you were tired from your journey and were sleeping." "You tell them why I'm here." Estrella shook her head. "No, it's not my secret to tell. I only told them you're here seeking redemption. But if you're going to build trust with my familia, it's best you tell them something. It doesn't have to be the reason you're here, but try and get to know them at least. Good teamwork can't be accomplished if one gear is unwilling to move. You don't need to worry about that. I'll be a team player when needed, and thanks for not telling them why I'm looking for redemption." Estrella nodded her head before gesturing to the library. "Well, enough about looking at pictures. Since you like reading so much, why don't I take you to the library?" A few hours earlier, the Estrella Familia was feasting in their dining room. After getting out of their adventurer's clothes and changing into casual ones, they all gathered in the dining room as Estrella was preparing a feast in the kitchen. The dining room, much like the hallways, was covered in a red carpet with a long table capable of fitting at least 20 people. However, the wallpaper in here was different. Unlike the hallways, which were a plain white, the dining room was a light green. Surrounding the windows of the dining room were various plants that Estrella liked to take care of. "Alright, girls, grab your plates and come get it," Estrella called out, setting down a turkey on the table and turning off the stove. The familia, minus Belle, grabbed their plates and walked to the kitchen. Its wallpaper was red with white tiles and a table in the middle where all the food was gathered. Ranging from chicken, turkey, a whole lot of meat, vegetables, and greens for the elves as well as a multitude of drinks. There was something for everyone, as Estrella knew her familia's different tastes. Well, except for Belle's. "Looks amazing as always, goddess," Elise complimented before filling her plate with meats. The rest of the familia grabbed their food and drinks. Some alcoholic and some not before going back and sitting at the dining table. "So, goddess, where's the new guy?" Elise asked. "Yeah, where is the new guy? He isn't waiting by the baths to see us naked, is he?" Kagaya teased. "He better not be," Ryu growled. "Calm down, lion, he wouldn't be able to see anything from you anyway," Lyra joked. Ryu's cheek turned a little red as she looked away. "Shut up." Estrella raised her hand to calm everyone down. "Well, in case you all forgot, his name is Belle, and he said he was tired from his journey and decided to go to sleep." "But wouldn't he want to eat something before going to sleep?" Iska the Amazon asked. "He probably ate on his way here. There's a couple of inns near Orario, and one is only a couple hours away," Estrella explained. I still wished he would have joined us. I wanted to get to know him," Lyra complained. "Tomorrow, Lyra, Belle is tired," Estrella ordered. "Well, since he's not here, can you tell us some things about him, goddess?" Mario, a blue-haired human asked. "I will only tell you the bare minimum of what he's told me. He has his secrets like everyone else and is entitled to keep them. However, one of his main reasons for being here is seeking redemption. I will not tell you why he's seeking redemption. You'll have to ask him. But for now, just try and get to know him and treat him with kindness," Estrella explained. "Goddess, how come he wears a blindfold?" Celti asked. Estrella had to be careful with how she answered this. Belle didn't necessarily forbid her from talking about his powers. But they were his powers, so it would only be fair for him to fully explain what they are and how they work. "I again can't say much, but Belle's eyes are different from everyone's. He's able to see a lot more than anybody else in the lower world. So much so that it causes a sensory overload in his brain and causes headaches. Therefore he wears a blindfold as to not experience them." The familia was confused as to how someone's eyesight could be so good it caused a sensory overload. But that was something they could ask Belle tomorrow. "But goddess, our eyesight is enhanced because of our levels, and we don't experience a sensory overload," Elise pointed out. Estrella just let out a slight chuckle. Elise was just confused at her goddess's reaction. "While yes, it is true that your eyesight is enhanced by the fauna allowing you to see hundreds of meters in front of you. Belle's eyes allow him to see how miles around him. My, you sure you didn't just poach him, goddess?" Kagaya joked. "Lady Estrella would never do that." Ryu protested. Girls, please settle down. Belle is only here because we were next on the list of the strongest. Had it been someone else, he would have joined them," Estrella explained. "Oh, so he isn't here to be a part of a familia made up of the most beautiful women in Orario, and the most loving, kind, and beautiful goddess," Elise feigned sadness. Estrella just giggled. "Well, he is a growing boy. It might be a small reason." Estrella knew who Belle's grandfather was, so she wouldn't put it past that some of his teaching stuck. "Looks like we're paired up for patrol today. Don't get any funny ideas, mister," Ryu grumbled as she and Belle left the Stardust Garden. "Wouldn't dream of it," Belle replied, his hands behind his head. "And take this seriously." "Don't worry, I am." Ryu just grumbled as the two walked. "You know, for an elf, you wear a funny outfit." Ryu scoffed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Well, for starters, you're wearing what I can only assume to be panties, leaving very little to the imagination. Plus, you have your thighs on display as well. Aren't elves supposed to be super stingy with that stuff?" Ryu just let out a sigh. "I wear it so I can have easy maneuverability while fighting, and to distract any male enemies I might encounter." Belle turned to look at Ryu. "No shit. It's the truth. Smart." The two continued their patrol down Main Street until a voice called out to them. "Hey Ryu, wait up." Ryu and Belle turned around and saw a blue-haired girl with cerulean eyes running and waving to Ryu. The two stopped walking and let the girl catch up to them. "Man, am I glad I spotted you. Almost had to do my patrol alone today." The girl then looked to Belle. "Who are you?" Belle pointed to Ryu. "Name's Belle and I'm a new member of the Estrella Familia. I'm paired with Grumpy Pants today." The girl giggled. "I'm Artie Varma, Ryu's best friend and a defender of justice." "Wait a minute, Estrella let a man in her familia." Belle chuckled at the complete 180. "Yes, she did. I know, shocker, right? Ryu doesn't seem to like the idea, though." Ryu grumbled as Artie laughed, wrapping an arm around Ryu, who blushed at the close contact. Artie didn't seem to care, however, and Ryu was making no attempts to stop her. "Ah, don't worry about her. She'll warm up to you eventually. Now then, shall we continue our patrol? While we're at it, I'd love to get to know you," Artie said, walking down Orario's main street, still holding onto Ryu. Belle smiled as he liked the girl's attitude. "Sure, why not? I have a feeling you and I are gonna be good friends." "Wait, you like reading?" "I like reading. What's your favorite story?" Artie excitedly asked. Belle thought for a moment. "I wouldn't say I have a favorite, but one I really liked was Argonaut." Artie shrieked in excitement, causing passerbys to look at her. "You like the Argonaut too? That's my favorite story. What's your favorite part?" "Mine's where he and the princess take down the Minotaur." Belle was a little taken aback by her enthusiasm but still liked it. She was fun to be around. "My favorite part was when he got his swords. Those were awesome unbreakable magic swords, and a spirit lived inside one of them. Badass if I do say so." Ryu perked her head up. "My favorite part is when..." Kaboom! An explosion rang out, causing part of a building to be destroyed. Belle grabbed both Ryu and Artie when he saw the debris heading toward them. Thanks to his infinity, nothing touched him, and instead, it floated in the air. He turned back around and saw multiple Evolus members killing whoever was around indiscriminately. Those injured or those who tried to run were cut down like animals. Belle immediately ran into action, gathering cursed energy into his right hand. Blue. He threw the sphere and watched as it collided with someone's stomach. The figure was sent flying back from the sheer force of the blow and was knocked out of the fight. The other members of Evolus stopped what they were doing, surprised at seeing one of their own taken out so quickly. "Who the fuck are?" Belle didn't even let the Maw finish before his fist met his face. Belle uppercutted him in the gut before grabbing his head and slamming his knee into his face. He threw the man aside before grabbing a woman's wrist who held a dagger. He kneed the woman's elbow up and saw the bone piece through the skin. He threw her aside as two swords were thrusted at his chest. They were stopped by his infinity and couldn't move. What the? Is this a skill? Close, but no cigar. Belle threw two blue spheres into their torso, causing them to fly back and crash into vendor stands. Ryu and Artie were not sidelined. However, as once they got their bearings, they jumped into the fight. Artie was quickly able to dispatch two members with a quick slash of her sword. The two fell, blood spurting from their chests, yet they were not dead. Because Artie's sword worked well with her magic, and she could limit how much she hurt people. Artie didn't like killing or really hurting people in general. But when terrorists invade your city and kill people indiscriminately, you sometimes have to put aside the things you don't like to do in order to keep those you love safe. Artie parried a spear away from her before closing the distance and kicking the leg out from under the woman before knocking her out with the pommel of her sword. Ryu swung her Alph's Lumina quickly, taking down multiple members of Evolus without breaking a sweat. Seeing as she was done with her combatants, she looked over to see Artie had finished as well. The two looked over to see Belle finishing up as he jumped over a woman. His legs shot to his sides as he kicked two men in the head before elbowing the woman in the back of the head. All three collapsed unconscious as Belle brushed his hands together. Well, that was unexpected, Belle commented as he crouched down next to an unconscious child. He put his fingers to the boy's neck and felt no pulse. Belle lifted his head and looked at Ryu and Artie before shaking his head no. A small hint of sadness appeared on their faces but was pushed down as they had more work to do. Civilians were injured, and it was their job to secure the area before Ermid and her team of doctors arrived. One's running, a civilian called out. Ryu turned on her heel and immediately gave chase. Ryu, wait, Belle and Artie called out, but were blocked when another explosion went off and more Evolus goons. Dot. 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 Ryu kept following the member of Evolus, not hearing her two companions shout after her. She had to bring this man to justice for what he had just done. Taking twists and turns, alley after alley, Ryu noticed she was heading to the ruined district. A place where old churches and shrines too, the gods lay in ruin as there was no need to maintain them since the gods descended. The man was panting as his face covering made it hard to breathe. But he could feel Ryu on his heels. He had to keep running and complete his mission. He busted through the doors of a ruined and dilapidated church before falling to the ground. Ryu stepped on his back and had her Alph's Lumina at his throat. In the name of the goddess Estrella, you are under arrest, she growled. The man nervously gulped, and then smiled as a blade was pressed against Ryu's throat. Put the weapon down, girl. Nice and slow, Zald ordered. Ryu felt a chill shoot down her spine as she listened to Zald. She put her hands up in a sign of surrender and stepped away from the fallen man. You did well leading her here. Now retreat and fall in with the others, Zald commanded. The grunt didn't say anything more and took a staircase that was located in the church underground to the sewers. All right, Zald, that's enough. You're scaring the poor fairy, a black-haired man called out. Ryu felt her heartbeat quicken as she felt the divinity coming off this man. The man had black hair with two cadet gray locks and gray eyes. He had a white shirt along with a jacket and pants, both black. In addition, he wore a purple untied tie around his neck and a black glove on his left hand. Now, please, my dear, why don't you have a seat? We have much to discuss, the man gestured. Ryu did as he said as she could feel the intense pressure coming off of Zald, and another somewhere else inside the church. It felt suffocating. All right, you two, you can cut it out. The poor girl looks like she'll fall to her knees. If she's scared of our mere presence, then she's not fit for this life, Erebus, Althea commented. Erebus just clicked his tongue. Whatever you say. Now, girl, you may be wondering why I brought you here. Correct. Ryu didn't answer as her knees were shaking. Erebus put a hand to his chin. It seems you're too scared to answer. No matter. I brought you here to ask what your opinion of justice is. Considering you joined the familia of my complete opposite. What is justice to you? Ryu's mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't answer. She was consumed with so much fear. Eventually, her knees gave out, and she grabbed her cloak in fear. Silence and gluttony were right in front of her. Two leaders of evil and some of the strongest people to ever live stood in front of her. Plus, the head of Evolus himself. What was she to do in this situation? Come on, little fairy, I don't have all day. Your companions will be here soon. The blue-haired girl and the boy with the 6 eyes. You should thank him if you make it out of this. It's because of his eyes they're able to find you this quickly. Erebus then crouched in front of her, getting close to her face. How about this? I'll make you a deal. If you don't answer the second that blue-haired girl walks in, I'll have her head severed from her shoulders and mailed to you at a later date. Can't do anything about the boy due to his pesky infinity. But you get the message, Erebus threatened. Wait, don't. I'll answer, Ryu stuttered. Erebus sighed in relief as he stood up. Now that's a good thing to hear. I didn't want to have to cut that pretty girl's head off. Now then, what's your answer, dear fairy? We don't have enough time. My opinion on justice is that it exists to help people in need, and to take people like you down, Ryu answered, feeling some of her confidence come back as she did so. She may very well die here and now. But her sense of justice brought her comfort in these possible final moments. A basic answer, but basic isn't necessarily bad. Alright, then, it's time for us to leave. Zald, Althea, let's go. Leave the crash. Everyone in the church turned their heads upwards and saw the window pane above Ryu shatter as Belle jumped through it. His blindfold was off, and his red eyes were glowing. His eyes were full of anger and rage as he landed in front of Ryu. Erebus just simply smiled and mockingly clapped. Well done, well done. Quite an entrance you made, Belle. Let me guess, you called it the hero's entrance. Belle glared at the god, and Erebus felt a chill run down his spine. Could this be who he had been looking for? I don't know your name and don't care to. I'm only here for Althea and Zald, Belle growled. Erebus faked surprise. Oh, you mean these two? He pointed to Althea and Zald. No, can do. I need them, but I bet your 6 eyes have shown you the 30 members hidden in the rafters. After Erebus said that 30 higher leveled, Evolus members dropped down and surrounded Belle. Their levels ranged from high 3s to low 5s. An even match for Belle. Well I'll see you around Belle. Oh and Ryu, keep your head on a swivel. You'll never know if I'll be around the next corner, Erebus taunted, walking down the stairs, his hands in his pockets. Belle felt rage flow through him, watching Zald and Althea walking away and paying him no mind. Don't run, you cowards! Belle yelled. Belle immediately started focusing cursed energy on his hands as the Evolus members charged. He threw his fist at the first one's face. Black flash. His fist connected with his target's face, and he was sent flying through a wall and into the street. Black flash is a phenomenon in Jujutsu that greatly amplifies the user's physical strike when cursed energy is applied to it within 1/millionth of a second. Normally most cursed users, when they were still alive, could rarely use this, and even if they did, could not connect them together or use them more than once, depending on the individual. But Belle wasn't a normal individual. Belle parried a knife with his hand by pushing it up, then delivered an open palm strike to the man's chest. The man gasped for air as Belle roundhouse kicked him in the face, knocking him out. Using blue, Belle started waving his hands around, causing the sphere to get bigger and bigger. Blue is achieved when the limitless user greatly amplifies the amount of cursed energy poured into the technique. This brings the concepts of negative numbers and negative distance into reality, forcing real space to compensate and fill in the area by drawing everything toward the impossibility. This generates a strong force of attraction, similar to a powerful magnet. It could be used for many offensive things, such as a ball one can throw. Or a void to suck everything up around it. Depending on how much cursed energy Belle applied, he could easily kill someone. Belle kept moving his hands, causing the void above them to grow bigger and bigger. It began to tear the church apart and draw the members of Evolus towards it. Once they were all in the air, Belle stopped the technique, causing them all to slam down onto the ground. Hard. Belle had made sure when they were falling to land head first. They wouldn't be getting back up anytime soon as they all had concussions. Belle, seeing that Althea and Zald escaped, clicked his tongue in annoyance. He was so close, and they got away. He heard heavy breathing behind him and quickly turned around to see Ryu having a panic attack. Artie was already there comforting Ryu, who held onto her as if her life depended on it. Belle knew he couldn't just leave her like this. He was raised to comfort a crying girl. But all he had to do was go down those stairs, and he could pick up Althea and Zald's trail. He looked back at Ryu and saw the poor girl shaking with tears streaming down her cheeks. He once again looked at the stairs to the sewer and sighed. Zald and Althea would be pursued another day. You're okay, Ryu. You're safe. Deep breaths, deep breaths. In for 4, out for 4. Can you do that with me? Artie said, trying to calm Ryu down. Ryu was listening as best as she could. But her mind kept flashing back to Zald's sword at her neck, and she'd lose all her progress. Here, I picked this up. It might help calm her down, Belle said, handing Artie Ryu's Alph's Lumina. Artie took it and handed it to Ryu, who wrapped her arms around it and held it like a stuffed animal. Artie kept hugging her and walking Ryu through breathing exercises to calm her down. After a couple more minutes, which felt like hours to Ryu, Artie was finally able to calm her down. Come on, let's get her back home. Estrella should be able to help better than we can, Belle said, offering his hand to Artie. Artie looked up at Belle and grabbed his hand. Ryu tried to stop her from moving, but Artie flashed Ryu a smile and said she wasn't leaving, just standing up. Ryu just remained on the ground, closed in on herself. Once Artie got to her feet, she was able to get a good look at Belle's eyes. She was taken aback by how beautiful they were. They were bright red eyes that glowed with the fire of the sun. The glowing orbs were so enticing Artie could look at them for hours and just be lost in their beauty. Belle didn't say anything as he crouched next to Ryu. Ryu, I'm going to pick you up and take you back home. Are you okay with me touching you? Ryu didn't answer but just remained motionless on the ground while her eyes had a 1,000-yard stare. Belle looked at Artie, who just shrugged her shoulders. Well, I'll deal with the consequences later, Bell muttered as he picked Ryu up in a princess carry. Again Ryu did nothing as she stared off into nothingness. She didn't even react to Artie calling her name. Estrella should have better luck than us, Bell said, walking to the Stardust Garden. He made sure to take routes so nobody would see Ryu in her vulnerable state. Well, that would have been my suggestion after I tried some more. How did you guess Estrella could help? Haven't you only been here a day? Artie asked. The pictures I saw of her and Ryu, and the aura she gives off. I figured she would be better at helping Ryu than we could. No offense to you being her best friend and all. But I think she sees Estrella as a mother. Maybe she needs her mother to help her, Bell explained. You're smarter than you let on, Artie commented. Thanks. The two kept walking in silence for a few minutes until Artie broke it again. I hope I don't offend you in any way. But the way you acted and spoke back there. It felt like you had a personal connection to silence and gluttony. Bell was quiet for a moment as he readjusted Ryu into a more comfortable position. Not here. But keep that piece of information to yourself, please, Bell asked. Artie hadn't even known Bell a full day, so she didn't have a reason to keep this secret. But she saw the frightening display of power Bell had just shown, and it felt like he was still holding back. But Bell was also her new friend, and friends kept secrets. All right, no need to worry. Don't need you sucking me into that weird blue thingy, Artie joked. Thanks. Bell then grunted in pain. What's wrong? Artie worriedly asked. Headache, have you seen my blindfold? I think it got sucked into that blue thing, Artie answered. Bell just let out a sigh. Well shit, guess I'll have to get another one. Bell kept walking, feeling the annoying dull pressure behind his eyes. He squinted to try and minimize it a little but to no avail. Hold on a minute, Artie called out. Bell stopped walking and turned around. Right as Artie tore away a huge piece of her sleeve, she looked at the white piece of cloth. Seeing it was at an acceptable length, she walked up to Bell and tied it around his eyes. Bell felt the change immediately as the dull pressure went away. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Bell said. It's no problem. I can always get a new shirt. Besides, we're friends now, and friends help each other out. Bell smiled as he was a little touched by her kindness. Yeah, we're friends now. Bell and Artie and a catatonic Ryu arrived back at the Stardust Garden. Ryu still had her 1,000-yard stare. It was late in the afternoon as they walked through the gates. The manor was quiet as not many people had arrived back home. The only two who did arrive before Bell and Ryu were Celti and Kagaya. Welcome Ba, what happened? Celti, the green-haired glasses-wearing elf, shrieked. Ryu got cornered by silence and gluttony. Physically she's fine, but we don't know what happened before we got there, Artie explained. Where's Estrella? Bell asked. In her office, come with me. Artie, you're welcome to stay the night. My intuition is telling me they got to Ryu by using either you or us, Kagaya said. Artie nodded her head as she followed Bell and Kagaya. So pretty boy, what exactly happened for Ryu to end up alone? You were her partner for today, Kagaya asked, walking with an air of authority. She was the vice captain, after all. A bombing occurred on Main Street. After the bomb went off, Evelyn jumped out and started killing the survivors. The three of us jumped in and stopped them. But one must have remained hidden since they ran away. Ryu gave chase, and Artie and I couldn't follow as another bomb went off and more Evelyn goons showed up, Bell explained. And how long did it take you to catch up to Ryu? About 10 minutes, based on what I saw and how that god left, I think he wanted Ryu there to talk to her. Wait, a god was there? Kagaya asked. Yeah, he had black hair and had a glove on his left hand, Artie confirmed. The conversation stopped as the group arrived at Astria's office. We can discuss this more once Ryu has recovered. But no one says a word unless told otherwise. The only other person that can be made aware of this is Elise. Understood, Kagaya said. Artie and Bell nodded their heads. Good. I will inform Celti of this order as well. I don't want a panic happening. If they find out how Ryu ended up, there's no telling what that would do to our morale. Kagaya then knocked on the door and her to come in. Kagaya opened the door and let Bell inside with Ryu in his arms. Set her down on the couch, Estrella ordered. She sat down on the couch as Bell gently placed Ryu down. Once he did, Estrella grabbed her head and put it on her lap. I'll ask what happened later. But thank you for bringing her back safely. Bell didn't say anything but nodded his head and went to leave. Before Ryu grabbed his sleeve. "Thank you," she whispered out. "You're welcome, try and get some rest," Bell said. Ryu let go of Bell's sleeve and let him walk away. "Well, Bell seems angry," Zald said. "He sees what we did as a betrayal. Even with the 6 eyes, his view of what's really going on is small. Not like we explained what we were doing. If we explained, he would have assumed we were lying." The two sat in silence for a minute before Zald spoke. "Do you think he can do it? What, kill us?" "I doubt it, but who knows?" Bell was walking back to his room. It had been a long first day being a part of the Estrella Familia. But he didn't expect any of this to be easy. He wasn't even expecting Zald and Alfea to be handed to him on a silver platter this early. Did he make the decision in letting them get away? Was it the right choice to comfort Ryu, who had been cold to him since joining? Bell didn't have the answers, and he probably never would. But they would have been nice. Opening the door to his room, he saw the books he grabbed this morning on his nightstand. But he also saw a small black case. He didn't remember getting anything like that, or bringing anything like that with him. Walking to the case, he noticed a small letter next to it. He picked it up to read it. "Hey, newbie, so Goddess has told us about your little eye problems. How they're so magnificent and mighty and whatnot. Sucks you have to wear a blindfold to cover them. I bet they look badass. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Since you wear a blindfold, you might come off as weird to some people. Not me, of course, but others could see you in a weird way. Now you can still wear your blindfold if you want. Just don't let Kagaya near it. She might wanna try it on, if you catch my drift. But I got you something to help you fit in a little better. Hope you enjoy it. Your lovely captain, Elise. P.S. I'd totally want to see what your eyes look like without anything covering them. I bet they look super badass. Like a raging volcano or a raging sea." Bell smiled as he set the letter down and opened the box. Inside was a pair of black sunglasses. The shades were totally blacked out as these sunglasses were most likely made for a blind person. But they would work just fine for Bell. Taking them out of the box, he untied the makeshift blindfold Artie gave him and set it down on his nightstand. He didn't know what he would do with the makeshift one. Maybe keep it as a spare if needed. Brushing the thought out of his mind, Bell put the sunglasses on, and they fit perfectly. It worked just like his blindfold and was more portable. But he would miss the stares he would get without his blindfold. It was fun messing with them. Bell grabbed a book and was about to sit down on his bed to read it. Before a knock on his door stopped him. Bell set the book back down on his nightstand and opened his door, seeing Artie standing there. Her hands were shaking and fidgeting in front of her. Hi again. Kagaya told me where your room was located, and well, the adrenaline has worn off, and I feel kind of nervous now. Is it alright if I stay with you for a while? I don't wanna be alone, Artie said that last part quietly. Yeah, sure, come in, Bell said, opening the door wider. Thank you. Artie then walked inside Bell's room, and he shut the door behind her. Kinda bare in here, Artie joked. Just moved in yesterday. I'll get furniture later. Bell guided Artie to his bed to sit on, and she did so. Bell sat next to her while grabbing a book off his nightstand. Wanna read together? Bell asked. Artie nervously nodded her head. Sure, but can I ask you something first? Artie asked. I have a feeling about what you're about to ask. So go ahead. Artie gulped before speaking. Was I right, in assuming you knew gluttony and silence? Bell was quiet for a moment as he looked around his room. Artie was confused on why he did that but didn't say anything. Bell was using his 6 eyes to make sure no one was nearby, as when they were covered, it gave him a type of thermal vision. Seeing as nobody was around, Bell looked back to Artie and answered. You are. I won't tell you how I know them or why. But just know I was not a member, nor will I ever be a member of Evolus, Bell explained. Artie, of course, wanted more information, but she knew Bell wouldn't give it to her. So she asked her next question. Who else knows? Only Estrella. And your powers, what are they? Something that'll hopefully help me put a stop to this dark age. Silence filled the room before Artie smiled. Your powers can't help you win this alone. But don't worry, your good friend Artie will help you, she joked. Bell allowed a small smile to appear on his face. I look forward to working with you. Partner, Belle joked back, elbowing Artie. Artie went to elbow him but was stopped by his infinity. No fair, that's cheating. Belle rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, wanna read now? Belle asked, grabbing a book. I have one more question. What is it? How did that blue void thingy not suck Ryu and me up? Because it's meant for my enemies, and you're not my enemies, so you're safe. Artie smiled at the words before looking at the book in Belle's hands. Alright, what story do you have? Artie asked, leaning in. Belle looked at the title and read. Braveheart. I heard this had a sad ending, Artie said. Only one way to find out, Belle replied, opening the book. So the two would read for the remainder of the evening as dinner approached. Elise and everyone else had arrived back not too long after Belle and his group did. She was immediately briefed on what happened by Kaguya, who rushed to Estrella's office. She flung the door open and saw Ryu with her eyes closed, sleeping with her head in Estrella's lap. How is she? Elsie asked. Estrella looked up at Elise as she stroked Ryu's hair. She's traumatized, but with enough help, she'll heal. Once she wakes up, we'll find out exactly what happened. Are we gonna make the fuckers who did this pay? Kaguya asked, anger in her voice. Estrella's face darkened as her face turned serious. We will one day, and when that day comes, I intend to bring the full weight of the hammer of justice upon them. Thank you for watching the video till the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe for more video adaptations of Danmachi fanfictions like this one, and there's 2 links in the description for this fanfiction and my own. Please leave a comment on what you thought about the story or this video. I'm the Mystic Otaku and I shall see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day or evening.